Starlars Forms and welcome back to my channel. I recorded this video ages ago but something went wrong so I had to start again from scratch. But that's okay really because I feel more confident talking about it and I'm very happy to share this video with you. So what video am I going to be focusing on today, you may ask? Well, I'm going to be talking about similarities between Asperger's and ADHD. When I did my research, I found that these similarities have been linked with autism, and based on experiences through myself and my friends, it's really interesting to see how much they are strongly linked. But I'm not going to really focus on autism much because today it's all about Asperger's and ADHD. So, where shall we start? Where to begin? Well, the first thing that didn't really surprise me, but I knew about straight away, was social skills. A lot of people with Asperger's and ADHD have difficulty having social skills, and this can happen in their everyday lives. They will find it difficult to know how to shop or swim or simply maybe just interact with people, but strangers particularly, and in one way they may feel very uncomfortable. They feel like that these people may be invading their own space, and most people I know with Asperger's, they like to have their own space. One of my friends really put this in a nice possible way. It's like being in a magical bubble, and I really like that phrase because it describes so much of how people with Asperger's or ADHD can actually feel safe and secure, and when they're not safe and secure then they can feel vulnerable. Which brings me on to my next point, which is socialising. Socialising is sort of like social skills, but they may find it difficult to interact with people. So for example, if someone wants to make eye-to-eye contact with them, then they'll probably look down and not make any contact at all. Or if they want to join a group, so say for instance a school group, when they're doing some coursework, which is part of their module, they're going to probably struggle because they will feel anxious, they wouldn't know what to do, and also they'll pick up things that really aren't their own emotions. So it's kind of like picking up someone else's feelings and emotions and turning them into their own. But this can even be more difficult if someone with Asperger's or ADHD has a negative experience in a group, such as bullying. This can make them feel really vulnerable, and they probably would lose their confidence for a while, maybe even forever. But I'm not judging other people, but I have had a few experiences where I felt that way, and I can really understand how people with Asperger's and ADHD would feel. It did take me a while to bring my confidence back up again, but it took ages. And between you and me, it really wasn't a pleasant experience. But in the end, we got there and it was all worth it. If someone was to help them pick up on their confidence in groups or individually, it's going to make a massive difference. But if people are not willing to support this on board, then that's not really going to be great for the person. And this brings me on to another point, but it's kind of linked, so I wouldn't go much detail, which is delayed social skills. So, like I said before, it's kind of like people who will find it difficult in the shops or maybe even the group. But delayed social skills is where they may or may not pick things up, and this ties into another point, which is having difficulty to listen or to follow instructions. This is kind of like a thing that most people who are not Asperger's or don't have ADHD will feel very frustrated about, which is a negative experience. But it's not really the person's fault if they have delayed social skills. Sometimes people who have Asperger's or ADHD need more encouragement or someone just to describe and to understand how they're feeling in the easiest way possible. If they're going to find it difficult and it's going to be too overwhelming, the person in question will have a temper tantrum, a meltdown, or just simply doesn't want to react at all. But when you are actually explaining to the person what's happening or what's going on or what you're going to learn a lesson today, it's always important just to try and make this short and sweet and to describe these experiences in a way that they can understand. If it's not going to be possible, then that's fine. But there are other alternatives too. And never give up on this, because there are bound to be ones sooner rather than later. And this brings me on to another linked point, which is tantrums. Tantrums, then they're very negative. I can really understand that. But the tantrums I really want to focus on are the ones that people with Asperger's and ADHD have, that they release out because they are frustrated or too overwhelmed. Those who don't have these conditions think that a tantrum is just a way of being naughty. And to be honest, that point was made ages ago. And that was a way of giving students or adults or children with Asperger's and ADHD a really bad name. But since more awareness is coming to light now, it may or may not change. But if you have someone who's got a tantrum, and if they are Aspie or have ADHD, it's always important to make sure that they're okay. Also, if you are somebody who's not a parent, and if you are looking after or teaching children who have Asperger's and ADHD, always check with somebody when you want to get to know the person, because if you don't know when a tantrum's going to happen through somebody, then it's going to cause a bit of a panic. But it's very important, because when someone tells you about these things, then it'll make things a lot easier for you. Or, well, not just things, but situations as well. In a way, you know what you are doing. If someone has a tantrum, then you are prepared. You've got this and there's nothing to worry about. Learning difficulties. This is something I can really relate to, because I have learning difficulties myself. And someone with a learning difficulty can occur in any place. So let me give you for an example. When I was at school, I had very severe learning difficulties, and to be fair, I still do to this very day. When someone has a learning difficulty, it barricades them to do things that other children, teens, and adults can already do. And this includes languages. Languages are the ones that are very common, because like myself, I know so many people who are on the spectrum, who are Aspie or who have ADHD. They said they really struggled with languages, or they didn't really like them, or they never actually did them, which was really interesting. But it creates a pattern. It's a pattern where you know that somebody who has these conditions can really find it tricky. Another example of this is trying to learn something from each person. Now, this is something that happens every single day in my household. When there are some bits that I'm not sure or I didn't hear anything about, my mum or dad would ask me, what does it mean? And when I was little, I would just jump into conclusions and say what I thought it was said, but they were like, no, and they had to explain it to me properly. But since I've got a little bit older, I've been a little bit better to ask. However, I still don't really get some stuff, and I have to keep asking questions until I actually understand. And bless them, my parents are so patient. They explain things to me in a way that I can understand, and I really, really do appreciate that. But there may be some people who are not so lucky. If someone has a learning difficulty, then parents and teachers should encourage themselves to explain things in more detail a bit more, and just not really force them to do things, but just try work their way around them. Try to understand them, to get to know them a little bit better through vision. and just see how we go. And who knows, maybe someone can pick up social skills through a learning difficulty in a few years' time, or it could be something completely different. Easily distracted. This is a very common one because a lot of people with Asperger's and ADHD, and sometimes autism as well, they can get really easily distracted. And the most common place where they can get easily distracted is by secluding themselves or other people secluding them within a building, especially in mainstream schools. Through my experience, I was easily distracted, especially with subjects I despised. So when I wanted to get away from the reality, I just used to look out of my window with my hand under my chin, and I would just watch the world go by until someone said to me, "Dad, are you paying attention?" And all of a sudden I thought, whoa, what's going on here? And that goes to show how easily distracted I was. And there will be some people with the conditions that will feel the same way, but they would react to it very, very differently. Sometimes they would just absorb into space, come back, and then go to and fro again, probably a few seconds or minutes later. But there are those who are easily distracted anywhere and everywhere. It's also connected to the difficulty of having to or listening to instructions. And in a way, I can see why it can be irritating to not just the people, but it can be like very good for the people with Asperger's and ADHD. It's kind of like their escapism, but it does have consequences, because if you want to go to cross the road in the street, then you have to pay full attention to cross properly. And if there's somebody that's not very used to certain things, like catching the number 2 bus, then they'll probably miss it if they don't think of it correctly. And that puts their social and communication and confidence skills all the way down. I don't know if there's any other methods in a way to help concentrating, but again, everyone is different, so a lot of people may or may not agree with the things that everybody tries to help people who are easily distracted. And my very last point is sensitivity to light, sound and texture. I've already covered this in another video I did, so I'll leave a link, and then if you want to have a look, then you're more than welcome to. However, I haven't really touched on texture much, so this is the one I'm going to be focusing on right now in this video. When it comes to texture, the first thing I tend to think is food or feeling some objects. So for example, feeling stuff like curtains, or maybe just feeling an animal, like an elephant for example, which I did today because I fed an elephant for the very first time as part of a special experiences where you can actually have for once in a lifetime. I really loved it. And as I was stroking the elephant, because I was really nervous and I didn't know what to do, I gave the elephant some pieces of fruit as she was eating hay as well. She got the fruit into her trunk from my hand and just gobbled it up with her mouth. Because I was with Keithers, I was allowed to stroke her, as long as I didn't give her the eye contact, otherwise it's not going to be that great, if you know what I mean. And as I stroked her, I couldn't help notice how rough her skin was. And for an Asian elephant, because this is an Asian elephant I fed, their skin is so rough. It's kind of like sandpaper, but since they've got a lot of wrinkles, it's like wrinkly sandpaper, which is an interesting feel. It feels really strange on my hands, but it doesn't really bother me too much, which I'm so thankful for. However, it can be really, really different for another person, because with texture, they may feel things that they feel extremely uncomfortable with, and that can make them very, very ill. And, well, not ill, but they feel like they're feeling poorly. Now, I don't know which way, but again, I don't really know everybody. So each person is very different. And with food, I know that my friend Connor from Conopolis has done this video before on autism and food, so I'll leave a link as well, and his video is really interesting and I would highly recommend watching it. With the food, it's kind of like tasting something in your mouth that you may or may not disagree with. It's all about the taste buds from the tongue, and some people with ADHD and Aspergers, they may have some special sensory feelings that can either be extra delicious or just, it's burning my tongue, or it's hurting my tongue, like ruffling down with sandpaper. And in a way, everyone's different, but the only negative thing about it is that some of the people can really be picky, and that could be frustrating to their loved ones around them. And also, I forgot to mention, smell is a very sensitive thing as well. I'm not sure if I covered this one, but I'm gonna say it anyway, just because. Smell is really interesting because there are strong senses of smell and there are weak senses of smell. But with the strong smells, that can make somebody really ill. For me, it's smoke from cigarettes or very strong pollen smell from lilies. And every time I smell them or inhale them, I get so ill. It's kind of like me having a big migraine or feeling the need to throw up. But it's different for those who have Asperger's and ADHD because they may have different things as well, and it just depends which one. And with that, I'm going to leave this video here. I really hope you enjoyed it. It wasn't really easy for me to film the second time, but I hope you really learned something from it, and I hope I got this correctly. Like, all the things I described, I hope they're all accurate. If not, then I really do apologise. I really don't mean to, because I know some people are really picky when it comes to my videos. Well, not picky, but they always remind me saying that, oh, you got something wrong, you're doing this, and I think, oh God, what do I do? So I'm going to try and keep things right and do my explaining and research properly. And that's a new skill that I'm going to have to pick up, but that's good, I can live with that, no problem. If you are someone who has Asperger's or ADHD, and if you got something that you want to share that I've mentioned in this list, or ones that I haven't mentioned in this list at all, please let me know in the comment section down below, and as always, I would love to read them. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and if you are new, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell for more future videos like this one. And with that, I'll catch you very soon. Goodbye! What a wonderful